Because you know I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass,
Two things. I remember being in, I think it was grade school, might have been middle school, and we were taken to see a play at our local theater, and it was A Midsummer Night's Dream. And it was just fun, and I remember sitting in the audience thinking, as I heard other kids say, I don't know what they're talking about, what's going on? And I remember thinking, I do know what they're talking about. I understand what's going on. I mean, I didn't understand every word, but it was just creative and fun, and it looked like it was fun, and I thought that was exciting. And then when I was in high school and I was actually doing theater, we took a trip up to the Guthrie Theater in Minneapolis, and one of the great regional theaters in America. And we saw a play by Thornton Wilder called The Skin of Our Teeth, which I had read, I think, or at least read up on before we went, but when we went, it just changed my life. And I remember thinking right then, I could do this for the rest of my life. I could be a part of theater for the rest of my life. Their stage has hydraulics, and there's a dinosaur woolly mammoth on stage. It's just, it was poetic and meaningful and human, and brilliant storytelling and production. It was just wow. So that was it. I would say really the Guthrie in Minneapolis. I took a very circuitous path through schooling. I first started out at a private school called Augustana in my hometown of Sioux Falls. I stayed in town because my boyfriend was still in high school, and that was a horrible mistake. The school was expensive, but it was good. And I just couldn't do it. I wasn't ready. As a foster child, I had other things I needed to work through. I was using therapy, like theater, as an escape instead of honoring it for it being its own thing. And so I dropped out, and I was a lot of money in debt, and I just worked for a while. And when I finally I moved back in with my foster parents, and I was ready to go back. I had auditioned for a community play, and one of the director is actually a teacher, a professor at University of South Dakota, and she enjoyed my audition so much that she called my home, and since I wasn't there, I was at work, but my foster mom answered, and she promptly had like a 45-minute phone conversation with Martha about how I needed to be back at school and I needed to study theater, and she would set up a scholarship for me, and I needed to come back to school. And I went to USD for about a year, and then I went to study abroad for a semester and transferred to the University of Colorado Boulder. So actually graduated from there with my BFA, and then I moved to Nashville for about a year and a half, and then I went and auditioned for grad schools. I auditioned for 3 grad schools, and I got into one, so I got my graduate, my MFA, my master's from the Chicago College of Performing Arts at the Roosevelt University, the Chicago College of Performing Arts. As a business model, it all revolves around money. Every answer I have to think of revolves around money. I wish that our government subsidized national art more like they do in Europe. I wish that I privately had all the money in the world so that I could make sure that good plays were produced in different voices, and that if any student ever wanted to go see a play, that they could do that. I guess I wish that the business parts of it were more supported, and I wish that it wasn't so much a business sometimes that it is. So I guess what I would change is I would make sure that it was financially valued. Of course, in our field, about 70 to 80% of the actors are female. About 70 to 80% of the roles are male. So typically what you see is, in my opinion, is a large swath of very talented women who are all fighting over 2 or 3 roles, and then some fairly talented men who are given roles or pre-cast or asked to do whatever. I think what happens in our field regarding women more often, women are making great strides in directing. I think that's fantastic, and playwriting, but we still have a long way to go. But what I have seen is, women get judged or taken out of roles because of their body type, because they're not, in someone's eyes, attractive, because they're not young. It's like either you're young and beautiful on some levels, or there's like a couple of roles. So it's kind of sad, but that's why I think we're seeing a lot more women stepping into directing and artistic producing and writing, so that women's voices are heard, whether they're actually on stage and how long that's going to take to really become, 49, 51. We'll see. Sure. Yeah. I don't think it's conscious always, but I think for society, unfortunately, it's easier to dismiss women, or if a woman is voicing her opinion. I know many times I've been labeled as sort of pushy or bossy or anything like that, and I don't think it's fair, and it makes me just push back harder, because I have a mind, I have ethics, and I treat people with respect, and when I'm treated unfairly, it just burns me, and so I'll say something about it, and I don't like it when other people are treated that way. I don't like it when people pick on people for things that they can't help, and or shouldn't have to care about. So yeah, there have been some things said that were very interesting. At one point, I remember somebody talking about a job that there were 3 candidates up for this job. There was a female, a male, and a gay man. And the person hiring said, well, unfortunately, we really could use a female in this position, but she's kind of the least qualified, and the other 2 are really good. But we could get the gay man, because that's basically the same thing as a woman. Insulting to gay men, insulting to women, and just obtuse, just so, I couldn't even believe it. And the thing is it was meant with honesty and respect. It was just kind of an ignorant thing to say. So yeah, I've witnessed it, and I've seen it, and I think it's going away. I hope it's going away. We should judge people by how they work, and that's about it. That's my opinion, but yeah, I've seen it. And what's funny is that theater is actually one of the places where you would think it's less likely to happen, and I believe it is less likely to happen in theater, because typically we are very inclusive. We just want to put on a good show, but it's pervasive. The attitude that women either can't handle as much or shouldn't handle as much, or I don't know, just sexist stuff. Men get it too, Men get, you got to carry the heavy stuff. You got to do this. You got to do that to be a real man. So it happens. I hope it doesn't happen as often in theater. It's awesome. It's fantastic. It's a real eye-opener. It's very different than theater. I mean, of course, there are some similarities. Again, the budget. I mean, how much it is an episode? Probably $4 million an episode. We won't compare that with your typical theater budget for a whole play. It's faster paced and slower paced. You don't have really a rehearsal process. It's on a lot of levels more about physical attraction, but it still also has to be a ton about talent and work ethic. So I've learned a lot, really, as an artist in storytelling, and how different it is to tell a story in an episodic script format versus in a play. It's very different. It's definitely helped my career as far as I think people, you know, are impressed by that, and I hope that they're more impressed by the work that I can do with my actors than just by the fact that it's TV. You know, that's cool. I mean, there's some great TV, but I'm more concerned with, like, is the quality of the work good? So working on Nashville's been a crazy ride. It's crazy hours, great people, weird. They feed you a lot, so I've gained about 20 pounds.